Ever seen an announcement for a cool new piece of tech, only for it to be impossible to buy for months or even years after release? Although it may look like scalping consumers are solely to blame, there is more to this story, as retailers are purposefully allowing the practice of scalping to continue and be as easy as it is. Let me explain. Before we get into how all this works, let's dial back the clock to 2020 with the release of the PlayStation 5. Everyone was anxiously awaiting the drop of this console. The only issue? It was literally impossible to buy from big box retailers. The only way to get them? You guessed it, to pay double, triple, even quadruple the MSRP from scalpers on eBay, of whom which use bots to purchase all of the inventory the instant it got dropped, long before any human would be able to go through the long checkout process. These scalpers were so aggressive, in fact, that the traffic they created acted almost like a denial of service on the websites that they were going after, often crashing them entirely. Walmart was one big example. This made it so that even the individuals that did by some chance get a console in their cart would never be able to successfully click checkout, since the website itself would not respond. But Patrick, there's a solution to this, I hear you say. And there certainly is. But retailers are incentivized against using that very solution. And there's one big reason for this. Although it is simple and literally costs them nothing to implement, I will get why they choose not to very shortly. First, what is the solution? It is something that has existed for as long as online retail itself existed, and that is the simple art of back ordering. You see, the whole reason that scalping itself is even able to exist is that on many retailers, once the allocated inventory is sold out, you are completely out of luck, with of course no ability to check out, and most importantly, no ability to know when stock may come back. This of course is to the advantage of scalpers, because their bots are checking the websites every second. So right when the inventory comes back, say in the middle of the night, it is all gone within minutes, if not seconds. If you think back even to the earlier days of iPhone, before Apple implemented back ordering, people would camp out in front of the Apple stores for days in order to get some inventory which they could resell at a scalp price online. But Apple, being slightly pro-consumer sometimes, identified this issue and said, how can we fix this and stop this practice altogether? And it is very simple. Allowing users to check out and complete their order even if all of the available iPhones at the time are sold out. That way, as soon as it becomes available, you are next in line, which completely removes the guesswork from the consumer's part, and all it takes is the patience to wait a few weeks before the manufacturing catches up and your phone is sent to you. This seems simple, but it is a beautifully elegant solution because it fundamentally defeats the entire purpose of scalping, as any patient consumer can just wait for stock to come back and their order to be fulfilled. When this is the case, scalping is a fool's errand, as no one will be incentivized to buy at a scalped price when you can just wait a few more days to get it at MSRP. So bam, scalping over. We have a universal solution that completely eliminates the practice. So why the hell was it nearly impossible to get a PS5 until nearly 2 years after launch? Well, it is quite simple from a business perspective. Scalpers guaranteed that the instant new stock dropped, it would all instantly sell out. And that is very, very good for business. You see, shareholders in the company don't care how sales happen, just that they happen at a large volume and very quickly. And what better way to ensure this happens than to allow literal bots to buy up all the inventory? And it goes even further. Not only does it ensure that inventory sells out every time, but it does another thing that big business loves, and that is artificially increasing demand. Given how profitable it was to scalp, thousands of people who otherwise would not do this started entering the scalping market. And when this many people start buying consoles in bulk, you eventually get beyond the true demand of the market itself. Starting to see why companies love this? The demand for PS5s over the first few months may have only been a few million, but now PS5s are being purchased much faster than Sony could make them. And now we are starting to get a runaway effect, where far more people were scalping PS5s than consumers actually had the interest in purchasing. So in theory, again, if backordering existed, they may have sold around 5 million units. But with scalping, they were able to sell millions more. This when many scalpers, towards the end of that 2-year time period, finally got the karma that they deserved, with many starting to sell these excess PS5s on eBay at a loss. This was around when the supply chain pressures in 2023 started to ease up, and PS5s could be acquired easily at any big box store. But again, for retailers, at the end of the day, those excess consoles were still sold, and likely would not have been if scalping didn't happen. This all may seem very scummy on the side of the retailer, and honestly, it is. But you have to say, from a business standpoint, it makes sense. As we have seen time and time again, when the opportunity for greed exists, many people will jump on board. And that creates the perfect storm for the average consumer, when retailers and select consumers make the acquisition of common everyday goods basically impossible for the average consumer. Moral of the story though, obviously never purchase scalped goods, and force these people to sit on their ill-gotten inventory until they end up having to sell it all for a loss. Trust me, it will all eventually be in stock, and patience is the easiest opposition to this garbage consumer behavior.